As a park ranger, I've seen many tough things during my time in the field, but one story stands out above the rest. It's about a little boy, just 7 years old, who went on a hiking trip with his family. It was meant to be a day full of joy and laughter, a chance for them to enjoy nature, breathe in the fresh air, and soak up the sunshine. But no one could have predicted the tragedy that was about to unfold. The family had chosen a popular hiking trail. Everyone was excited, taking in the sights and sounds of the forest around them. Laughter filled the air as they walked, and the boy was full of energy, eager to explore every nook and cranny of the path. At one point, he wandered a bit off the trail, just a short distance, but far enough that no one could keep an eye on him. Before anyone realized what had happened, the boy slipped on the steep embankment. I still remember the frantic call that came through to us. A boy had fallen. My heart raced as we scrambled to the scene, knowing that every second counted. But when we arrived, the situation was much worse than we could have ever imagined. He had fallen onto a dead tree at the bottom of the embankment. One of its jagged branches had pierced him, a horrific sight that none of us were prepared for. It was a freak accident, the kind of thing you can't predict but will never forget. We worked tirelessly to recover his body, carefully navigating the treacherous terrain, trying to remain calm in the face of chaos. When we finally retrieved the boy's body, I felt a heavy weight settle in my stomach. We had to tell his mother what had happened, a task no one could ever prepare for. I remember the look on her face when she saw us approaching with the ambulance. She must have sensed something was wrong, as her smile quickly faded. The moment we informed her of her son's death is etched into my memory. Some moments stick with you forever, and this was one of them. The sound she made when she saw the body bag being loaded into the ambulance was haunting. It wasn't just a scream, it was something much deeper, a raw and primal expression of pain that echoed in the silence of the forest. It was the kind of sound that pierced your soul, a sound that will forever haunt my thoughts. I could see the devastation in her eyes the moment when her world shattered. She realized in that instant that she would never hold her son again, that her life would never be the same. Her entire existence, her reason for living, crumbled in a heartbeat. I wanted to reach out, to comfort her, but words felt inadequate in the face of such overwhelming sorrow. In the days that followed, I couldn't shake the feeling of sadness that hung over me. I found myself thinking about that little boy, imagining the laughter and joy that once filled the air during their hike. Instead, all I could hear was the echo of that mother's cry, a haunting reminder of how fragile life can be. Weeks later, I heard from another officer about the mother's fate. She couldn't bear the grief of losing her son. Just a few weeks after his death, she took her own life. That news hit me like a punch to the gut. You think tragedy only affects the moment, but it sends ripples, pulling more people into its darkness. Her sorrow had become a part of my own story, a weight I would carry with me forever. Every time I step into the forest now, I remember that boy and his mother. I remember how quickly a day of fun can turn into a nightmare. It's a stark reminder of the importance of safety and awareness in nature. As park rangers, we work hard to protect our visitors, but there are some things we simply cannot foresee. This experience taught me that life can change in an instant, that joy can turn to sorrow before you even have a chance to grasp it. The memory of that little boy and his mother serves as a constant reminder to cherish every moment we have, to hold our loved ones close, and to never take a single day for granted. Part 2. The Lost Children. Over the years, I've built a solid reputation for finding missing people. You might think it's always dramatic, but most of the time, it's not like that at all. Usually, people just wander off the path or slip down a small hill and can't find their way back. They remember the advice to stay put, and eventually we find them. It becomes routine, really. But there are two cases that stand out in my mind, and they still haunt me to this day. These are the cases that keep me pushing harder on every search, because they didn't end with a happy reunion. The first case was about a little boy. He had gone berry picking with his parents and his sister in a beautiful forest. It was a place they knew well, a familiar spot they had visited many times before. The parents were keeping an eye on both kids, but just for a moment, they looked away just a few seconds. When they turned back, both of their children were gone. As soon as we got the call, we sprang into action and mobilized a search team. The excitement mixed with anxiety was palpable. Within a couple of hours, we found the little girl, safe and sound. But when we asked her where her brother was, her answer sent chills down our spines. She said he had been taken by the bear man. At first, we thought she was just scared and confused, maybe even making up a story to explain the situation. It's common for children to create tales when they're frightened, but the more we pressed her for details, the more insistent she became. She said the bear man had given her berries and told her to keep quiet. He wanted to play with her brother for a while. The last time she saw him, he was sitting calmly on the bear man's shoulders, being carried away. Naturally, our first thought was abduction. We searched the area thoroughly, scouring every inch for any signs of another person or clues that could lead us to the boy. But there was nothing, no tracks, no clothing, no signs of a struggle. The forest was eerily quiet. We combed that area for weeks. It turned into one of the longest and most heartbreaking searches I've ever been involved in, but we never found a single trace of him. What made the situation even more unsettling was the girl's description of the bear man. She said he wasn't like a regular person. He was very tall, much taller than her dad, and covered in thick, dark hair, just like a bear. But it wasn't just that she said his face was odd too. It was flat and wide, with small, dark eyes that seemed to watch her closely. We tried to dismiss her story as a child's imagination, but the way she recounted it stuck with me. It was clear she wasn't just making it up. She truly believed what she was saying. After weeks of searching and coming up empty, we faced the painful reality that we might never find the boy. The parents were devastated, their hope fading day by day. And then, just when we thought it couldn't get any worse, rumors began to spread in the community. Some said they had heard whispers of the bear man before, a figure seen lurking in the woods. Others spoke of strange happenings, children going missing, or wild animals acting strangely. The stories sent shivers down my spine. With each passing day, I felt the weight of the case heavy on my shoulders. I pushed myself harder with every search, driven by the memory of that little boy and the haunting words of his sister. Every time I ventured into the woods, I couldn't shake the feeling that I might come across something or someone that would lead us to him. I knew I had to keep looking, not just for the boy, but also for the truth behind the bear man. The other case that haunts me is similar, but it's the first one that stays with me the most. The faces of those parents, the fear in the little girl's eyes, and the mystery of the bear man, they keep me awake at night. Each search reminds me that not every story has a happy ending, and that's what drives me forward. I can't let these cases fade away. I owe it to the families, to the lost, and to the haunting stories that linger in the air. Part 3. Vanishing without a trace. The second case that still haunts me is about a young man named Joey who went hiking with his mother. It was a bright, sunny day, perfect for a walk in the woods. They set off together, excited to explore the beautiful trails and take in the fresh air. According to his mother, they had been walking for a while, chatting and laughing as they went. The sounds of nature surrounded them, the birds chirping, the leaves rustling in the gentle breeze. As they walked deeper into the forest, Joey spotted a tall tree that seemed to reach for the sky. Filled with the energy of youth and curiosity, he decided to climb it to get a better view of the sprawling landscape below. His mother stood at the base of the tree, looking up as he climbed higher and higher. "Be careful up there," she called out, her voice laced with both excitement and concern. He waved back at her, laughing, and continued his ascent. But then, something changed. Joey didn't come back down. His mother called out his name. "Joey, come on down." She waited, thinking he might be playing a joke, hiding in the branches, maybe trying to scare her a little. Time passed slowly as she stood there, glancing around and looking up at the tree. Hours went by, and the sun began to dip lower in the sky. The once bright day was turning into twilight. When it started to get dark and Joey still hadn't returned, a wave of panic washed over her. She realized something was seriously wrong. She felt a chill run down her spine, and her heart raced. The peaceful woods now felt ominous, and she quickly pulled out her phone to call for help. "Please, my son is missing," she cried into the phone, desperation evident in her voice. When we arrived at the scene, we could see the worry etched on her face. She explained what had happened, her voice trembling with fear. We immediately began searching the area, hoping to find any sign of Joey. We combed through the underbrush, calling his name, but our voices echoed back to us, unanswered. The sun had fully set, and the darkness wrapped around the forest like a thick blanket. Just like in the case of the little boy from my past, there was no trace of Joey. He had simply vanished. His mother swore she never saw him come down from the tree. It was as if he had climbed up and disappeared into thin air. We found no broken branches, no signs of a struggle, nothing. It was eerie and unsettling. The trees stood tall and silent, as if they were guarding secrets we would never uncover. We continued our search through the night, shining flashlights into the dark corners of the forest, calling out his name, hoping for any response. Hours turned into days as we scoured the woods, hoping for any clue that might lead us to him. But it was as if the forest had swallowed him whole, leaving no trace behind. The longer we searched, the more hopeless it felt. Every day that passed brought more anguish to his mother. She was trapped in a nightmare, her heart aching with the uncertainty. She clung to the hope that Joey was out there somewhere, waiting to be found. But as time went on, we had to confront the harsh reality that he might never come back. The weight of this possibility hung heavy in the air. These cases linger in my mind, replaying over and over every time I'm called to search for someone missing in the woods. Each time, I feel that familiar sense of dread. It's the not knowing that truly gets to you, the feeling that something is out there, something we just can't explain. The forest holds its secrets close, and sometimes it feels like it doesn't want to share them. As I sit by the campfire at night, listening to the sounds of the forest, I can't help but wonder what happened to Joey. What could have taken him so suddenly, leaving behind only questions and heartache? These mysteries haunt me, reminding me of the fragility of life and the dangers that lurk just beyond the trees. Part 4. The night shift. I had never worked the night shift before. The thought of it always made me uneasy. But with so many people quitting recently, I didn't have much choice if I wanted to keep my job. The hours were long and grueling, 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock. So I prepared myself as best as I could. I packed a large thermos of coffee, a few energy drinks, and some snacks to help me stay awake during the long, dark hours. The tower I was assigned to was old and creaky, with several flights of stairs leading up to the top. It had an air of neglect, with peeling paint and rusting metal. I arrived just before 10, my heart pounding with a mix of excitement and anxiety. I fumbled with my keys, trying to unlock the door while balancing my thermos and bag. Finally, the door swung open with a squeak, revealing the dimly lit interior. Inside, it was as simple as you'd expect from a remote ranger tower, just a radio stand, a small fridge, a microwave, and a single chair in the corner. The atmosphere felt stale, like it had been untouched for too long. I did my usual checks to make sure everything was working properly. The radio crackled to life, and the fridge hummed softly. After confirming everything was in order, I grabbed my flashlight and binoculars and stepped out onto the balcony to scan the vast forest below. The night was oddly quiet, almost too quiet. There were no animals rustling in the underbrush, no birds flitting through the trees. It felt as though the entire forest was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. I leaned over the railing, straining my eyes to see beyond the darkness. The moon cast an eerie glow over the landscape, illuminating the trees like ghostly figures in the night. That's when I saw it. At first, I thought it was a snowman standing in one of the clearings. My mind raced as I tried to understand what I was looking at. But then I remembered it was July, far too warm for snowmen. I looked again, and my heart sank. It wasn't a snowman at all. It was a child, dressed in a ghost costume. You know the kind, a simple white sheet with big black holes cut out for eyes, like something straight out of a classic Halloween movie. The kid wasn't moving at all, just standing there, staring right at me with an unsettling stillness. A chill ran down my spine as I called it in to Jerry, another ranger who was working the shift with me. "Jerry, I see a kid out here in a ghost costume," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "He looks alone." Jerry sounded confused, his voice crackling over the radio. "A ghost costume? What are you talking about?" "You know, a sheet with eye holes cut out," I explained. "Can you check it out? He's over in the southeast sector." "Sure, I'll take a look," he replied, still sounding skeptical. "I'll call you on the walkie-talkie once I get close." I watched him make his way toward the ridge where I'd seen the kid, his flashlight bobbing in the dark. The beam of light flickered in the distance, cutting through the thick darkness. But just as he reached the ridge, his voice cut out completely. The flashlight went dark, leaving only the stillness of the forest around me. "Jerry, you there?" I called, but there was no response. Panic began to set in. I rushed outside, calling his name, but the only sound that answered me was the echo of my own voice. The forest was eerily silent, as if it had swallowed all sound. That's when I saw her. At the bottom of the stairs leading up to the tower was a tall, gaunt woman. Her skin was a sickly, dark blue, as if she had never seen the sun. Long black hair hung in wet strands around her face, dripping onto the ground. She wore a tattered dress that seemed to blend into the shadows around her. But the worst part was her eyes, milky white and unseeing. It was as if she were looking right through me, not at me. But her mouth, it was hanging wide open, unnaturally so, like her jaw had been broken and stretched. A cold shiver ran down my spine as she let out a piercing scream, a sound that cut through the silence like a knife. She began to move up the stairs towards me, her movements unnaturally quick. Adrenaline surged through me, and I bolted back inside, slamming the door shut behind me and locking it. My heart raced, pounding in my chest as I grabbed the biggest knife I could find from the kitchen, just in case. The blade felt heavy in my hand, but I was more scared than ever. Then, I heard a door creaking open behind me. My blood ran cold. I turned slowly, bracing for the worst. But what I saw stopped me in my tracks. The cabinet, which had been locked, was now wide open, swinging gently on its hinges. Standing in front of it was the kid in the ghost costume. He giggled, a sound that sent chills down my spine. I pulled off the sheet, and there he was, Bobby, Jerry's son, laughing hysterically. "I got him, Dad," he shouted into his walkie-talkie, his face beaming with joy. "He freaked out just like you said he would." It was a prank. A stupid, elaborate prank. Jerry had been in on it the whole time, using his son to scare the hell out of me. They were all laughing, enjoying the joke, but I wasn't. That scream, that woman. My heart was still racing, and my mind was in chaos. I turned to Jerry, who had just walked in, still chuckling. "Was that part of your joke?" I asked, trying to catch my breath. Jerry swore up and down that the woman wasn't something they had set up. I didn't believe him at first, but there was something in his voice, something unsettled. "I swear, I didn't see anyone else out there," he insisted. "I thought you were just joking around. I thought you'd find it funny." But I didn't find it funny at all. I was too rattled, too shaken by the whole experience. The memory of the woman's chilling scream lingered in my mind, haunting me. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. I haven't seen that woman since that night, but every time I'm out in the woods, I can't help but feel like she's watching me from the shadows. I wonder if she's real or just a figment of my imagination, a trick played by my mind during a sleepless night. The forest holds many secrets, some darker than others, and that night made me realize just how little we truly understand about the world around us. As I continued my shifts, I often found myself looking over my shoulder, listening for strange sounds in the silence. My colleagues teased me about it, calling me paranoid, but I didn't care. I felt that I had brushed up against something otherworldly, something that could not be explained by mere pranks or tricks of the light. And so, I kept my flashlight close, my knife within reach, and I never ventured too far from the tower without a sense of unease creeping in. There are things in the dark that are better left unseen, and I wasn't sure I wanted to find out what they were.